Let's stay with election matters because Anthony Albanese is tying himself in all kinds of knots over security issues. Now, his problems with security have been going for quite some time. You'll remember well the Chinese warships off the coast of Sydney firing live rounds and the government finding out via a Virgin commercial pilot. Then was another Chinese vessel off the coast of South Australia, this time a surveillance ship tracking the ocean floor for what could only be described as nefarious purposes. Anthony Albanese's response to that was that, well, he would rather they weren't doing it, which is not exactly standing up for our national security. And then, of course, there were reports in Jane Military Journal just a couple of weeks ago that the Russians had asked for an airbase in Indonesia, which, of course, would be a massive problem for Australia. Now, when the coalition raised this and started asking questions, the Labor Party said it wasn't true, it was a fabrication. Senator Murray Watt went as far as saying the whole thing was just some crazy conspiracy theory.
The opposition is asking for a briefing on something that doesn't exist. I mean, they might as well ask for a briefing on the Loch Ness Monster. This is something that doesn't exist, that they fabricated.
Except now we find out the Loch Ness Monster is real. It did exist. It was not a fabrication. Back in February, the Russians did ask the Indonesians for the ability to use their air bases and possibly, Jane magazine is reporting, for a permanent base. And it turns out the Prime Minister knew about this as early as March. So he's been caught lying again and worse, playing politics with national security. Here's Anthony Albanese ducking and weaving again today.
In March, were you told about the Russian request for airbase access in Indonesia?
Oh, look, I don't go through... again, I refer to my previous answer. What adults do on intelligence is receive them and not conduct it through the media. What we know...
You also spoke about the importance of transparency.
What we know is, I'm sorry, but adults, when it comes to intelligence, act like adults.
I'm sorry, but adults don't say Loch Ness Monster about true and factual reports. Our national security under the Albanese government, Liz, is an absolute joke. And the only people that are laughing are the Chinese, the Russians and everybody else who wishes Australia harm.
It's another Labor lie, I say, looking at Joe. For 2 weeks, Labor ministers have pussyfooted around this issue. They've gaslit everyone, making it out that this was made up. It was a Loch Ness Monster. It was mythical. It never happened. And now they've got egg all over their faces in the middle of a campaign, just a week out to polling day. How is this nothing but a massive embarrassment, Joe?
Oh, I'm very glad you asked. I actually wrote our election wrap or election analysis on this today, and I've coined the term, and you'll enjoy this, tactical obfuscation. So it's not a lie, it's tactical obfuscation, but it is actually very, very important.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
That's right, as George Costanza said, but they don't believe it because they're not actually. So when you say they are calling all this stuff that's come out today the Loch Ness Monster, if you go back and look at what they actually said, they're not. They want you to think that, but they're not. So what?
They said it was fabricated.
No, they said...
The very word fabricated is in quotations.
But what was fabricated?
Oh, please.
That's right. The idea that there would be a Russian base or that Russians would be using an Indonesian base, that they said was fabricated. Of course, that's not what the question was. The question was always, was there a request? But they don't answer the question, was there a request? They answer, was there a plan? Is it going to happen? And so you will see time and again in all these exchanges, says, was there a request for this thing? They'll say, there are absolutely no plans for a Russian airbase anywhere on Indonesian soil. And so it sounds like they're answering that question, but they're not. They're answering a different question. And that is the first law of politics, which is you always answer the question you want to be asked, not the question you actually are asked. And so then it creates the impression that even the speculation or the reports of the request must also be bunkum. And that is why when Murray Watt was kind of the exception that proved the rule, because in just one instance, he deviated from what was a very carefully worded script, that there are no plans, you know, there's no approvals, that it's not going ahead. And Murray Watt just in one little tiny slip said, there's no proposal. And in fact, that is the one thing that there is, because, of course, the proposal came from the Russians in the form of this request. And that's when you saw the opposition jump all over it. Say, see, now he's lying, now he's lying, now he's lying. But because there was already so much kind of confusion and noise about it, and because Peter Dutton had gotten into a bit of trouble as well by saying the Indonesian president had said something when he'd said absolutely nothing, suddenly it all just got too confusing. And that is kind of what the government wants you to do. They want you to think that the request for the base, which is worrying, and the base not going ahead, which is not as worrying, are the same thing, and therefore that none of it is happening. In truth, the first thing is happening, the second thing's not happening.
So you're saying they didn't lie technically?
That's right. They didn't lie. They just didn't tell the whole truth. That's right.